And welcome back to X Squared Radio Final Hour. My co-host tonight is Suzanne Ross. She is the organizer of the Beyond the Matrix Expo that's going to be taking place the 19th and 20th of March if you're just joining us. We also have on the line with us Julian Forrest. We have been, I'm sure his ears were burning. We were playing your music, Julian, just in case you don't know. So Julian is live now with us. Say hello, Julian.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Brooks?
Yes, we can hear you just fine, and Suzanne's on the line with me.
All right.
Hey,
I'm
Julian.
so glad to be here. Thank you so much. Hey, hello, Suzanne.
Yes, so great to hear your voice.
All right.
You know what?
Yeah, perfect.
When I wore a younger man's clothes, I used to have a Les Paul, and I had a
Oh, really?
Had a micro synthesizer and a delay unit and echo unit and
Really?
a flanger and a phaser, and I could make that guitar sound like a steel guitar or what do you call it, steel drums, and I just used to play with whale sounds and stuff and sit in my living room when the band wasn't over rehearsing and just invent all kinds of cool sounds. But you have taken it to the next level. You've taken it to an art form. So what I would like to know is, like, everybody picks up a six string and starts, copying other people's music. At what point did you diverge into what is now Julian Forrest?
Well, here's what it really is I came from a very far out place. I didn't play any musical instruments growing up. I didn't really know anything about, certain kind of cultures that I'd become familiar with later in life. And I would have these celestial plane experiences. And I would hear this angelic, heavenly, cosmic, unbelievable music. I'd be wafted over to these certain kind of states. And sometimes I was wide awake. Sometimes I was partially asleep. Sometimes I was, in whatever kind of state of mind I'm in, but it happened in various different ways. And what would happen is I would hear this music and I would just be entranced. I was completely and totally enchanted. And it would come to me. And these experiences were very important. So that's where it really started. It was only until later in life when I actually picked up a musical instrument and I said to myself, oh, wow. I love this stuff that I'm hearing on movie soundtracks. And so I manifested an electric guitar. And it was kind of bizarre how one came to me, but I did it. And I said, I want to learn how to play flamenco. I want the Spanish guitar style, right? And so that's what really motivated me to pick the instrument. But what progressed is I became a master of the hard rock electric guitar. Eruption by Eddie and Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, and all these far out crazy things like Crazy Train by Randy Rhoads, Ozzy Osbourne. And after about a year and a half of that, I had a great time. Once I really got it, it was a blast. But I said to myself, wait, you have to stop. You cannot play other people's music anymore. You have to figure out how to become your own composer. And so once I did that, I said, oh, okay, how do you do that? And that's when I started figuring out about classical music. And I became a classical musician. It was a whole other phase of my life. And I was very, very disciplined in phases. Classical technique, playing on your fingertips and holding balance in your hand, and ear training, composition, studying the great music ages. And then I became a classical musician, and I played the sitar in classical music. So it was a very involved thing. And then what it really came up to was a point where I realized, okay, you've done the discipline, you've done the work, you're trained, you have created all these skill sets, technique, ear training, composition, music theory, all this stuff. And I became ever more esoteric at that point. And I said, how can you possibly create the music of the angelic realms on the earth?
I get it.
What
yeah,
it's really about.
I totally get that. I mean, I'm more of an ADD kind of person. I don't stay as focused as you do, so I bounced around between.
I can only stay focused in phases, Brooks, to be honest with you. We're probably more similar than you think.
I have an acoustic guitar.
Yeah,
I got an acoustic guitar that's sitting upstairs in the case, probably still in tune, but that's about it. I really I miss the Les Paul. I miss the board with all the pedals on it. And in fact, I actually looked up and made one of my favorites, the Page that has the microsynthesizer. Microsynthesizer is like the next best thing to an avatar, a synthesizer. It's a full-on pickup that goes on your guitar. That's really quite amazing instrument. But the microsynthesizer is just a little tunable, wave generator, and as you play into it, it alters the wave shape of the guitar and makes it sound like all kinds of different instruments. And then when you add the delay to it and a volume pedal, you can bring in those attacks, really like a violin or a cello. I became just immersed in cello sounds I could get out of this guitar. And you know what I think we're going to do?
Wow.
I think you and we're going to jam in Sedona.
You know what? I feel like that would be totally appropriate, because by the way that you speak, Brooks, I feel like, wow, I mean, this is a person that's actually spent some time. He's actually, really tuned into the variables, and
I had a friend that had a Rickenbacker.
Sensitive musician.
I had a friend that had a Rickenbacker, the 4-string bass, the big Rickenbacker, and he had an acoustic amp which had horns and, of course, the folded horn, for the lows, but it also had regular horns for the high end of the bass guitar. And I could pull harmonics out of that bass guitar that would just freaking blow your mind. He couldn't even do it.
Wow!
It was just a lot of fun.
So you're sensitive to harmonics. You've tuned into how to actually hear the harmonics as opposed to just the tone.
Yeah, if you're a Stephen Vai fan or a Carlos Santana fan, the value of the harmonics at the right time in the music. It gives you that celestial overtone to what would be fairly ordinary music. And there are some like Tibetan.
Absolutely. So well said.
Yeah. I've heard Tibetans chant in Tibet, and they have a way of, you hear a kind of bass voice, but then on top of that, out of their own mouth at the same time, you also hear another harmonic, like a dual voice, like their voice is making two sounds at the same time. It's the strangest thing. You can find examples of it on YouTube, but to hear it live, it's just mesmerizing. It's just hypnotizing the way they do it.
Well, one of the things I'll state is a personal opinion, is that I feel like harmonics, in the way that you're speaking of, are actually the keynote. They're the keynote concept, at least, of the next phase of human consciousness. Is that more and more people become aware of harmonics. And Pythagoras is one of my favorite people of all time. Secretly one of the most influential people of all time, for sure. Kepler and Newton and Plato were all Pythagoreans. People don't even really realize that that's what it is. And the Sufis were influenced by Pythagoras. But Pythagoras' biggest thing was, hey, there's music in the whirling of the spheres, and there's geometry in the humming of the strings. Now, it's very poetic and beautiful, but they weren't kidding. They actually had the mathematics for the entire geometry of the solar system, how plants grow, the human body, and matter, and everything. And it's based on harmonics. Harmonics are actually the most gentle, beautiful, high-level secret of all time. Once you actually get inside the harmonics and know how they unfold inside of a note, and you can hear them. You hear the song of God.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm a mathematician, so one of the ways that music at
Excellent.
all frequencies is transformed into mathematics is a mathematical system called a Fourier transform or Fourier transform. What you're basically looking
Yeah,
for,
yeah. Fourier mathematics are based on harmonics. That's absolutely correct.
right?
Harmonics. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you get into the mathematics of it, and my degree's in nuclear chemistry, but once you get into the mathematics of it, you realize that what you're really listening to, you can actually see it on the screen. If I were to take a piece of music like let's say Fur Elise, which everybody's familiar with, and I just counted the number of times each key was hit, and I had the 64 keys listed out on, say, the X scale on the bottom, and the Y scale is the number of times each key was hit. If I showed you the image of that stack of vertical lines, if you knew enough about the mathematics, you could say, oh, that's Fur Elise, because it has a unique wave shape. Now, one of the things we know about chemistry, and the bigger the molecule, like DNA is a gigantic macromolecule, sometimes hundreds of thousands of molecular weight, it is a resonator with the harmonics of music. That's why music lights you up sometimes. And it's great to have
absolutely. And I love the mathematics. So what happened for me is I love talking to you, by the way. I gotta say that it's tremendous. It's like there's so many. I think we're gonna end up being good friends, Brooks. It's just the level of perception that you've taken the time to look into is going to make it so that we have tons of things to talk about. So here's one of the things that's really, really essential about harmonics is if you take an open vibrating string, just an open string, let's say the low E on an electric guitar, just to make it simple, and you call that one hole, and then 1/2 there's a harmonic, and it's equidistant from one end to the bridge to the nut. Okay, and so that creates a waveform if you're looking at a harp string, which is like a figure eight. So it's really not an accident that the figure eight, when we look at it as a numerical drawing, is exactly an ellipse, because there's people that actually knew that 8 and the octave and the doubling of frequency are actually in the geometry of how a string unfolds. So when you hit that harmonic on the 12th fret, you're actually creating a figure eight. You're creating 2 ellipses as opposed to one larger ellipse. Imagine a jump rope, and it's twirling. That's 1/1. Okay, but if you divide it in half and you hit a note on a string, now you have 1/2. That's an octave. It's the figure eight. At 1/3, you get 3 ellipses. At 1/4, you get 4 ellipses. At 1/5, you get 5 ellipses. 1/6, you get 6 ellipses. Onward to infinity. So what's really happening is the harmonic ellipses that are enveloping out of the geometries of a vibrating string are the keynote perception vehicle to how the universe is really operating.
Yeah, that's
because what's happening is
that's all correct except for one thing. It doesn't go to infinity. It's limited to the Planck length. That is the smallest.
I'll be honest with you, Brooks. I'm familiar with the Planck length, and I respect it as a way of measurement. I do. My personal opinion is that unprovably, and subject to being a serious opinion for sure, absolutely, is nonetheless that I feel that the harmonic cascade is actually an infinite structure that loops kind of like pi. That's just my opinion. Now,
no,
I
that.
respect the Planck structure, however. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that. I don't know if you've ever done this with an acoustic guitar. Everybody that's a musician has had one sitting in the stand, somewhere in the room, and then you turn the stereo on, put an album on or whatever, and you turn it up really loud. At some point in that piece of music, it sounds like one of the strings on the guitar is just plucked with a pick. It just rings out all by itself. In reality, what has happened is that that string is exactly in resonance with a piece in that music, an energy in that music. And
exactly.
So it absorbs that
Totally.
energy and then resonates with its own sound. And that's what we do. That's what our bodies do when we're immersed in music.
So well said. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I used to own a music store, and I had this amazing setup because, you know, I was in a pretty good spot, you know, and I had these modified Marshall amplifiers set up in my front room. And it was a big front room with this wooden floor, right? And there's a few other circumstances too. And sometimes I just hit a certain note, Brooks, and it's like these, you know, because I had lots of instruments around. I'm a music store owner, right? You know, and they would like sometimes 3 or 4 of them would start playing all by themselves because I'm playing at concert level volumes, you know, through these Marshall stacks. And I'm like, oh my God, I get it. You know, this is why an A440 tuning fork or any frequency can be hit, and then it'll reach another note, and the tuning fork will start ringing. And these guitars, they're all singing with these notes I'm playing because they're resonating.
Mm-hmm.
And the transfer of energy is based on resonance.
You know,
resonance is one of the biggest powerful secrets.
There's a strange thing that's happened to music, and we kind of feared it was going to happen when we went to the digital age, when we went away from vinyl to the CD, although vinyl, you know, still plagued by the same thing. When we started to digitize music and we started to sync it perfectly so that, you know, we could even, you know, auto-tune people's voices so they're right on the note. Yes, technically it was perfect. But you know what? It was no longer human. It was no longer artistic. So when I watch your YouTubes, the thing that I like most about it is you're not sitting in a studio with auto tuners and, you know, computers fixing everything and syncing everything. It's just you on stage with the Marshall amps, a few foot pedals, and it's just you feeling the music. And I liked what you said in the beginning of one of your videos. You said it's different every time. I modify it every time. It's not because you forgot how to play it. You're playing the same song. It's you're picking up on the energy of the people that are there, and you're sensitive to what they need out of the music that you're doing at that time.
And that's true, Brooks. And it's also an alchemy of, you know, what am I feeling right now? Where am I? What's the resonance of this room? You know, what equipment am I playing through that resonates this way as opposed to another way? And it's very instantaneous. You know, it's like if I'm in Sedona and I am, say, for example, at Adele Sound's house, and I'm doing sound healing concerts there, and there's crystals all around, and everyone's like highly attuned. They're ready. We're in Sedona. They know that they're coming to have a transcendental experience.
That's right.
You know, I feel into that whole thing, and it's like I'm there. It's like I get, hey, we're going to have a transcendental experience together, and I'm not going to make anyone do anything, but I'm going to create a field where you have the opportunity to do that. And you know, because it's a resonance between all of us, and you are correct. There's an alchemy between me and the people that are there, and so sometimes though it's very off the cuff. And it's like, wow, I don't even have a consciousness and awareness. It's not calculated in any way, but I'm here and I'm feeling something that feels right and appropriate. And sometimes it's filmed and sometimes it's not, you know, and then sometimes when it's filmed and I look back at it, I'm like, holy, you know what? I mean, it's like, I wasn't even thinking about that. I don't remember that. It's like it was for that moment, and thank goodness it got filmed because I should probably remember it. You know, you know, yeah, you got it.
You know, it's you know, now I go sometimes to paint. I go to paint meetups with other people, and we sit around and with our canvas, and we're all painting the same picture. We're painting the picture that we brought, and almost the same thing happens. I get into this very strange kind of out of body mood where even if I'm doing a Bob Ross painting, watching a Bob Ross video, I feel so
Okay.
uh it's like therapy. It's like it's so good for your soul. It's good for you to artistically
Yes.
express yourself. And even if you're, just beating on a drum, or you're, humming through a kazoo. But we're gonna have a lot of crystal bowls there too, right, Suzanne? This could be this
That's
could
right.
Yeah, it's about ready to bring in Suzanne myself. That we're like telepathic. Hello, Suzanne.
Hello,
I felt
Julian. Loving
it's
every minute.
it's time to bring my dear friend in. So, Suzanne, you are the coolest. You are so amazing. You are exactly the refreshing, beautiful transitional drink that Sedona needed, and we all did it together. Because when I landed there, about 3.5 years ago, thereabouts, it wasn't what we created it into, hon. You know that. It's because we started doing things. And now people are activated and they're out there, and it's like Sedona is a different place. Thank you so much for being such an amazing resonator of divine energy.
Wow. Well, I will take that into my heart space, my dear. You just made my week. Aw, thank you so much, Julian. We've had so much fun. Hey, did you see the video I put out of the 5 phenomenal sound healers on Facebook? There's a footage of you on the Red Rocks. Do you remember when you were up high on the Red Rocks playing your guitar, and we had the drone?
So where is this place to look for it?
Yeah, I posted it on my Facebook page, and
I really want to see that.
Yeah, it's so phenomenal, Brooks, because we got Julian high up on a red rock, and we used a drone, and the footage is just amazing. And yeah, it's on my Facebook page, but
wow.
I laid your music
Okay.
underneath it from when you were in my TV studio. You remember against the green screen here?
Yes.
Yeah, so I laid that music
I totally remember
underneath
that day.
it. It looks like you're playing it live out there on the Red Rocks, so it's very cool. Yeah, we had some really great times here in Sedona, and I'm just reflecting on some of the gatherings too, because like Brooks was just saying, yes, we'll have crystal bowls. Yes, the lovely Shakina Rose will be there, and your brother Stands with Bear is so psyched that you're going to be coming, Julian.
That's so cool. You know what? He's been a very, very good friend, and I connected with Stands with Bear very early on when I first moved to Sedona. And it was very clear, from our meetings that we were going to do something. And so it's been an ongoing thing ever since then. And yeah, you know what? Beyond the Matrix is going to be tremendous. It's a huge gathering and energetic, sigil. And the sigil is an emblem. It's a symbolic coming together of people and consciousness, and creating all this together, Suzanne. As you know, it's a very high level thing. It's part of the hallmark of what the world can be. When we all come together as spiritual practitioners, musicians, and say, hey, we're going to do something together. We're going to gather. We're going to create an environment. It radiates all over the entire planet and beyond. And I'm super, super happy about this.
Well,
Wow,
I can just tell you, we got
said.
about a minute 45 seconds left in this half hour. I'd love for you to stay through the break, Julian, because I want to talk about some other stuff too.
For sure.
The great Doc Skinner is going to be there. Not only is he a great videographer, a great film editor, we could make a kind of reality show music video. It could be absolutely one of a kind. This is the spring equinox, and I declared this year to be the year of light. 2019 is the year of light, and I called upon everyone to crank it up. We're going to turn the light up and drive the darkness back into the shadows.
Yes. Light warriors in the house.
Okay, so everybody saw the movie Ready Player One. You remember when he makes like the shout out to everybody, "Hey, come on, we gotta fight to tear down this wall." This is the shout out. This is the shout out to you millions that are sitting out there listening live right now. Show up to Sedona. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away. More X Squared Radio final segment coming up right after this.
Okay. All right.